Hi, Denise here. Yesterday I talked about how our boundaries or a lack of them shapes our lives. And today I want to go deeper into what that actually looks like in real life because most of us don't realize that we're actually creating the very chaos that we're trying to escape, right? And here's how chaos becomes normal. It's so easy to normalize dysfunction. We're nice people, we want to be helpful, and we can end up just kind of like sliding into that role where we take on things that we really shouldn't. It's very easy to normalize helping and get that confused with responsibility. We want to be helpful, but where does helping end and responsibility begin, right? So we tell ourselves that things are going to calm down soon, but if we keep taking on other people's stuff without setting boundaries, which boundaries are like an action that takes us to self-respect, right? It's like it's just going to keep perpetuating itself. So it's easy not to see ourselves in this pattern and what we're doing. And I'll give you an example. I kept thinking that life was going to be great once everything gets back to normal. But the truth was I had built a life where other people's dramas and emergencies became my routine, right? So here's what a lack of boundaries actually looks like, all right? You answer people immediately rather than feel like saying, I'll consider it, or let me think about that. Okay, we're not talking about being rude or being mean or anything, but just, give yourself the grace, give yourself the space to think things over, You drop everything to be with another person or take their call or reply to their text message or something. Or you feel guilty saying no, If it's not your responsibility, you should never feel guilty saying no. And you also feel like somehow you're responsible for other people's feelings, like you created their feelings. And the truth is, you really can't create another person's feelings. It's like they're their feelings, just like your feelings are your own and you own them. Their feelings, by the same token, are their own, right? Or if you constantly feel exhausted, but you can't understand why, you can't figure it out, it's because there's all this weight on you, that you're taking on, and you're always like on call for certain people. It's boy, what happens when we don't have boundaries, right? And I was mentioning in the short yesterday that thing of, life is going to be great when things get back to normal, right? And then I realized, wait, this is my normal, and I started doing things differently. And, one of the first ways to create a boundary is if somebody dumps a problem on you, instead of jumping up and saying, oh, do this, do that, or let me handle that for you, or whatever it is, you say, so what are you going to do about it? Now you don't have to be mean or snarky or anything like that. Just what are you going to do about it? And really what you're doing is you're putting the power back to them. You're not being mean or nasty or anything like that, but believe me, the first few times when you assert yourself a little bit differently, it doesn't always come out in elegant ways. It's like, it's not normal languaging for you, and just accept that that's true. You may feel uncomfortable a few times when you do it. And when you ask a question like, so what are you going to do about it? Then you have to, let that silence, and that's hard, okay, at first, right? what are you going to do about it? Just be quiet. Now, there might be pushbacks at times where they go, well, aren't you going to, do blah, 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 or take this on or whatever, or they might be just surprised or startled, and then when you're able to not take on that responsibility and not feel guilty about it, you will begin to feel a tremendous sense of relief, right? Because boundaries, it has nothing to do with controlling others. It's about respecting your own time and your own energy, right? And so once you do that, then there's a payoff, right? And what opens up when you stop fixing everything is, man, you won't believe like the clarity. I felt so much better, and all of a sudden it's like I had all this time in my life and more emotional steadiness because, let's be really honest. I mean, a lot of times you give people the very best advice and everything that you can, and they don't follow it anyway, they don't follow it anyway. And you're now going to have the ability to pursue your own goals, and then you shift from reacting to setting your own intentions, right? Self-respect, which results in setting boundaries, is not a feeling. It's a pattern of choices. It's an accumulation, and boundaries are where that pattern begins. So, and again, you're empowering the other person to have some confidence in making their own choices. And that's, in the long run, that's really far more helpful. So I encourage you to take a look at your own boundaries because you deserve it.